I know it's been a while since I've made a video, but there really hasn't been anything to update on this fall. It's been unusually cold, which means everything that we usually grow this time of year, because it's often warm with just a couple of cold spurts, hasn't been growing. All of our beans are dead. We do have peas, but my ducks escaped one day and ate pretty much all of my pea plants. The only thing that's really growing are the plants we usually plant in winter. These baby carrots are popping up, and I can't for the life of me remember what variety. I want to say Imperial. They were just a bunch of seeds that the feed store was kind of getting rid of, and so we bought them in bulk at $1 a scoop. So I just kind of sprinkled them in the bed randomly. And then all of our turnips are actually starting to fatten up. These are the purple tops. So here they are. You can see this one's getting a little fat. These are still really thin. I think the cold weather is really helping that along a lot more. But things are growing slow. It's not warm, and there's not a lot of sun. So things are definitely slowly creeping along. And I found this guy. He's the first pest I saw on the things. I smushed him. He was hiding inside of this little turnip leaf right here. But other than that, everything's going well. I am, however, really excited to show off the area where I just randomly seeded all of the turnips, and I think there were some other winter greens too. I think mustards and carrots. It's the duck coop, and I just kind of sowed everything kind of everywhere to see how it would grow, and I'm really excited how well that's grown. So I'm really excited to kind of head over there and show you. Everything is dying back. The leaves on our grapevines are dying back. There are leaves all over the yard from our trees. Last year, our grapes didn't even die back. They kept leaves all year round, as far as I remember. At least this one did. So I'm really surprised. I don't know if that means we're headed for an exceptionally cold winter, but I did make a video last year somewhere in December this time of year, and I was growing green beans. So for all my beans to have died between October and November, it's really crazy to me. Here are the banana plants, and I'm amazed they're actually still alive and still growing. This one's kind of way up here above me, and it's looking really good. Usually when it gets really cold for a long period of time, they really start dying. These definitely have some damage and dying leaves, but they're doing okay. And I really think that's because they are growing so close together now, and we've left all of the brown leaves on to kind of protect them. But there's a lot of black mulch in the soil and a lot of grass, and we pile stuff up on them, and I think that's really actually helping them out. Now, if we get really cold winters, chances are they're going to die off, but I'm really hoping that they don't, because if they don't, then this following year will be the first year that we're going to get bananas. This variety tends to take about 18 months to produce, so the whole first year they're just growing in size, and the following year is when they produce fruit, and that takes a good 100 to 180 days for the fruit to ripen after they start producing. So here is our passion fruit. It is still growing everywhere. It is literally just taking over everything, even though it's been cold. This is probably one of the best plants I've ever planted. I'm definitely going to buy a whole lot more of these. They're just so good for shade and everything else, and it just keeps growing all year round. It does start to stun a little bit during the heat, but that's okay. I'm excited to see how it goes. I planted some peas around it just to kind of fix in some more nitrogen into soil, because this is in a container and not in the ground. And that's because we had the ducks in here, and they will dig out every plant. They managed to kill an entire plant right here, a Carolina jasmine, because they just like to dig everything up. The only reason all of these plants are growing so well is because they're blocked off from this side of the coop and trapped on the other side. So these are all the little carrots that I planted, the Imperial ones. Look at them. they're just taking over. Those just started popping up. And it takes a minimum, easily 3 weeks for carrots to really grow. And I just surface sowed everything. I did not worry about trying to sow in lines or anything else because there was no grass left from the ducks being over here and just trampling through everything and doing their own thing. So these are kind of a mix of turnip greens and mustards that I just seeded. Kind of crazy too. And they're doing amazing. I mean, just these leaves are massive. And if I didn't have so many greens already in my fridge, I would be picking the leaves off of these to grow. And you can see the roots are starting to kind of swell up a little bit down there. But I just can't believe how well these plants are. And I did try these and they were a little bit spicy though compared to other greens that I've grown, but they're really close together and yet they are doing so well. And yet there's still so much room where more could grow. There's some over here, but this is just a lot of empty blank space in between still. So I'm thinking about coming and sowing more in here because whatever we don't harvest, we can eat all the greens off of these while they're growing and producing roots. Then later we can harvest the roots, but then they can all be left for the ducks, and if we decide to get chickens and geese, which I don't know about chickens, but we're really looking at geese because they can eat grass and produce meat and fat just off grass alone. And for a homesteader, and especially someone who wants to kind of get away from grain feed and being dependent on the system, that's just, you can't put a price on that. So I know Mr. Holderhead is really focusing on his mini geese right now, the Oregon mini geese that he's creating that are supposed to be anywhere from 4 to 10 pounds. And I'm actually kind of interested in that whole process because having a goose that's smaller, for one, you don't have to worry about the aggression issues that some geese have, but for two, they can kind of be released in between the raised garden beds to eat the grass and the weeds, and I think that would be a really great option for a table bird for a small homestead like ours. You know, we don't need a 20-pound goose. Right now, if I cook a large duck or goose like that, I mean, it's going to last a long time, or even a turkey. That lasts our family several days. So having smaller geese that we can boil or use, I think would be a really cool option for our homestead. So I'm actually kind of closely watching how his birds progress, and they're a little pricey, but I am interested in maybe saving up and purchasing some at some point. I mean, I think a smaller goose would be really great for a homestead, but also something that the kids and I aren't afraid of, because I remember my uncle had African geese growing up, and I've literally been attacked by 13 geese at once, and if you've been pinched by a goose biting, it doesn't feel good, so you know how horrible it is. So right here we have all of the small peas growing. This was just a Burpee's bush variety of pea, so they don't get very tall, but these are the ones that the ducks did not manage to eat because they're inside a fenced-in area. So this area is where we have like this little pond that the goldfish are in, and it's just kind of closed in. It's how we fenced off our backyard, and then we ended up cutting out this door here and making a gated entrance and then closing it off, and I kind of built this area last year, or earlier this year, I'm sorry. But the original area was built several years ago, the fencing, and so it's just been a great area. The door used to be right here, so we put another door here, and then we can use this whole area right here for babies, or we can open it up and let some of the big animals out here and keep them separated, which will come in handy during breeding season, because I really want to focus on my Welsh Harlequins and getting just really making them the best they can be. And we've got it down to 4 females and 1 drake, so we've really cut back a lot. Right now you can hear the babies screaming inside the coop. They're mad because they just want to be fed and watered and attention. And we have had babies hatch in the last month or so, but they're not. There's one that looks like a Welsh Harlequin cross. They are all just complete mixed breeds from when we had all of those crossbreed drakes in here. So I have no idea what they are, how they're going to turn out. I may just save some of the hens and separate them into a pet pen in order to have them for eggs and see how they do. I'm also interested in getting a couple of those 300 hens, the golden 300 and the white layers ducks, just to kind of see if their production is really as good as they say. I think that would be a good addition to the homestead because I seem to have more luck with ducks than chickens. With chickens, they always seem to try to escape. So the roots of these are white. So I'm not sure what's up with that. I am kind of curious because these are not purple like the other ones, but I bought in bulk, so maybe they were mixed, or maybe I've just mixed so many plants in here I can't really tell the difference between the turnips and the mustard greens. Honestly, I haven't really grown mustard greens, so I don't know what to expect. I've only ever seen them bought from the grocery store. This is really a new experience for me. Now the grown-up ducks are quacking, so it's really loud. But just look how big. I mean, it's just an entire sea of green vegetables. And I've always heard not to grow, use duck poop or waste in your fall gardens, especially in Texas. I don't know why that is, but I just sowed these seeds on top of the area where the ducks had been for all summer before we expanded the pen and added the other 900 square feet. So these are just sown directly on top of the soil, and they've taken off all by themselves. And you can see the little carrot just popping up in between them, which I think is really cool because that tells me whenever we harvest all of these turnips and start cutting the leaves back and then eventually harvest the bulbs and the roots from them, then all of the carrots will be able to kind of grow up in between and take over. I'm a little nervous stepping in between these because I have seen snakes, not in here, but I mean, I know that we have snakes in the yard, you know, so. Oh, look at this one though. This one's probably doing better than any of them. It is massive. That is incredible. So the bulb's just starting to kind of fatten up. And these are purple now. They're still kind of white, but I guess they're starting to purple up more. But the ones in the other area that aren't growing as well, they're really purple. So that's cool. I think after these start producing bulbs and I really cut back a lot of the greens, then it'll be close to time to separate for breeding season for the ducks. My ducks are not laying right now. I collected a big clutch of eggs and filled an incubator. Out of 45 eggs, we didn't do so well. We only had 15. We had 16 babies hatch, 15 survived. One didn't even make it all the way out of the egg, and it just wasn't developed properly. It was really awful to look at too. But those 15 babies are doing really well. You can hear them screaming on the other side. So I'll have to do a video kind of updating more and showing them. But right now I just don't feel like going inside the chicken pen and duck area. I say chicken pen a lot. Right now we only have ducks. But it started out as chickens until I realized that our chickens escape so much and it was exhausting. Whereas the ducks don't. They don't really escape. I've only seen them jump up and flap their wings once or twice, so pretty good. Here's some more root crops kind of coming up. These are actual mustards, I believe, and some turnips sowed in between. And there's also some random sunflowers popping up. I'm guessing because I gave the ducks sunflower seeds and somehow some of them ended up here. And you can see some peas growing. Just kind of a random bed of whatever. This was sage at one point. And these are the goji berries kind of taking over everything. It is amazing that they're still producing berries. and abundantly so, and I haven't been picking them, you can tell. I've been letting them fall and let the ducks eat them if they go through the other side. There are just hundreds and hundreds of goji berries everywhere. They don't store well, so these really are the type of fruit that you really want them to produce. This is the second or third year we've grown goji berries, and now they're really starting to produce and become productive all year round. But it's just a fruit that, in my opinion, they don't taste that great. They are abundant. My husband likes them mostly for health reasons, and so I just throw them into smoothies with things that taste better, or you can dehydrate them. Just getting the amount of fruit you need during the first couple years to dehydrate is just really difficult, and honestly, it doesn't always feel worth it. But I mostly planted them because they were thorny. They're a great border plant, and the ducks eat, like the lower parts, they hardly have any leaves because the ducks will eat the leaves off the lower vines, but not be able to damage them and completely destroy them because they are a woody vine. So this is something really good for your other animals. See, this is what a ripe goji looks like. And this is the big duck coop, which the other side of this, but I don't really want to go into it because it's so muddy, and we had a ton of water. It was just absolutely ridiculous how much water came back here. We just came home from a holiday dinner with our family, and there was just 7-8 inches deep of water in most of this area. Now the coop was dry, so that was a great thing, but there was a lot. And you can see that's a good thing about ducks. It's kind of why we started, because when we bought the house, we had been in a drought for 5 years. The year we purchased our house, the very next year, Hurricane Harvey hit, and it's just been, we realized how much water the back of our yard held at that point, and it's just been non-stop going through extremely dry summers and extremely wet winters. So chickens did not thrive on this side of the yard. We could not keep them there, and ducks were just such a good option for us. Look at them stretching out. And the girls are finally getting, their feet are blackening up finally. They're getting really dark. These are just really well colored. These three are. This one's a little light for my taste, but otherwise she's doing really well. So I'm just going to wait to see when she has her 1-year-old molt if she darkens up the way that she should. I did consider taking her out of the breeding program, but I'll see how she does. And if it doesn't go well, then I'll put her on the pet side and we'll use her eggs for eating and producing ducklings that produce a lot of eggs, which is fine. That's what these two over here, she is a really good layer, so we've been keeping her, and that's who we're hatching all the babies out for our layers. And also we do eat the drakes whenever they're in abundance. And so she's not part of the program, obviously, but she's such a good layer that we decided to keep them and move them to kind of the pet pen side whenever breeding season starts. Right now they're not laying at all. They're just kind of hanging out and enjoy the weather. I do have lighting in their coop, but it's only for the babies, and it's directed at them to keep them warm. I do not use lighting to make my hens lay throughout the year. I give them the rest that I feel like their body deserves. That's not the same for every homestead. People have different views on that. Some people don't keep their ducks as long as we do, because even when ours stop laying, we know that certain ones make good mothers and are good at hatching out nests. We use them to forage, keep the grass under control. So there's a lot of good things that they can do afterwards, and we take that into account when choosing who to cull from our flock and who not to cull. And this little drake over here, he's the one that kind of gets paired up with all the pet hens. He produces really good, calm, heavy birds, so that's who we've used. Now, if we use our Welsh Harlequin drake here, likeliness is that we would get some birds where there were sex linked, that we could tell male from female at birth, but it doesn't match up in the second or third generations. That's not the case. They look just unpredictable. But we used Cotton, who was a mallard stripe, so he had a stripe going down the back of his head. He was very incorrectly colored Welsh Harlequin. And he actually produced babies with our 2 hens that have kind of the chocolate color and the penciling. He managed to produce babies that at birth we could tell all of the males had mallard striping and all of the females were a different color. And so it was really easy to tell. Also, if you have purebred khaki Campbells and you cross with a Welsh Harlequin drake, now ours are silver. That means that they have blue on them instead of the gold on their speculum. So that probably plays some kind of role in how they come out looking. But for me, that really made a difference, being able to tell males from females. So I know that a lot of people say if you have a chocolate drake or hen, that crossbreeding with a duck that has a penciling pattern will kind of create those sex-linked ducklings. I have not tested it with other breeds, so I can't honestly tell you if that's true or not. I can tell you that 100% it works with our khaki Campbells that have the penciling, like the dark Campbells and the crosses that come out with penciling, and it absolutely works with Rowan hens and our Welsh Harlequin, silver Welsh Harlequin drakes. 100% I can tell you that will work. But I don't know about other ducks. So I think that would be a really cool experiment to kind of figure it out and see how it works, honestly. And last is this. It's just has the goldfish in it. This was intended to be kept clean and filtered out and for the ducks. And I actually removed the filter about a month ago and just kind of let it be because it's under the oak tree, and why it's messy and mosquitoes get in here. These goldfish, I don't know if you can really see them. They're kind of shadows under the water. They've really survived just eating the mosquitoes and things that fall in here. And they have their own little ecosystem. So I was thinking about just adding in some plants, planting some banana trees around here, and just letting these 5 guys have their best life, really. They were just feeder fish that we threw in here, and they did well. But what we weren't expecting was our daughter to get so much joy from this little pond and those 5 little fish. So it's a really cool area, but it's just not being used as intended, which was originally a duck pond. Our ducks actually had a really hard time, even with a good system and a little floating area, getting in and out of the water. For some reason, they would just stay in until they started sinking, and when you try to get them out, they would freak out. It wasn't working well. So we're probably going to have to go with a smaller system. They have a tendency of staying outside and staying in the water even when it's 30-something degrees outside. Sometimes I worry about them, but I know ducks really enjoy water. So that's something we've kind of had to focus on, is not giving them deep water because they just don't seem to know when to get out of it, even with assistance. So I think that's about all for now. There's just not a ton going on. Other than this, we have some seedlings growing, which may just have to be its own little video. I just kind of wanted to show off this little area, maybe tell you a little bit about what's going on. I'll have to do a full update of my Welsh Harlequins and their coloring and how they're coloring out now that they're getting older, because it's just going to be too much information at one time. And then I'll have to show off the little baby cross ducklings because they really are adorable. And out of all of them, all 15, they all basically look like mallards, except for 3 of them. 2 of them have their chocolate gene, and you can tell because they're brown instead of black and yellow. And one of them actually looks like a Welsh Harlequin cross, which is really cool. So that's something I definitely think would be interesting to watch how they grow out. So I hope all of you have a great day, and thanks for listening to my rant over my plants and the various things going on in our homestead right now.